Welcome to the show. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Ali Moreno, Stevie Nicol, Shaka Hislop and Craig Burley. We also welcome from Paris World Cup winner Frank Leboeuf is with us. We'll be talking about France's underwhelming 1-0 victory over Peru a little later on. But it was really quite a five-star performance compared to that of Argentina today, who lost 3-0 against Croatia. Croatia were brilliant, and we will give them some love a little later on.
We will?
But, well, if we have time, because we really have to break down how bad this performance was from Argentina.
Is this arguably one of the worst performances in the tournament so far? We've seen Iran give Spain a game, Germany beat Mexico, so the Portugal-Spain game at the start. Everything in general has been quite competitive. They just weren't competitive. I mean, they got absolutely roasted in the end. I mean, he's gone. Sampaoli, the coach, if bar something dramatic happens, there's going to be some hell of an inquest back in Argentina when this all rolls out. But they were so dishevelled and disorganised with experienced players and an experienced coach. I was shocked. I really was.
That one mistake from Willy Caballero just seemed to pull the wind completely out. There was no coming back from them after that.
No, and I think it's easy to point at Willy Caballero, and rightfully so. That is something that we cannot excuse here. What I don't understand is what Jorge Sampaoli has been doing with this team in preparation for the tournament. Because where is the organization? Where is the plan? Where are the ideas? Why are you trying to play out of the bag with Willy Caballero, Otamendi, Tagliafico? Why? The players are not there in order for you to try to do that. You try to do that one too many times. There were mistakes earlier on in the game that Croatia were not able to take advantage of. Then comes the big mistake, and then you're down 1-0. And you're hoping, if you're an Argentina fan, you're hoping that there's going to be a reaction. Instead, it was capitulation. It was turning of the page. It was Lionel Messi disappearing. When I say disappearing, I love me some Lionel Messi. But he went and parked himself on the outside and said, you know what, guys, I've had enough with this. And there was no reaction. We saw a Croatian team that continued to play, continued to expose the mistakes, and we just saw frustration and bad tackles from Argentina. That's teams that have no answers. That's what they start doing, the bad tackles and the physical play and all those things. This is a team that is talented enough, and yet mentally and organizationally, they're not quite there.
Big statement. Messi disappeared?
I don't believe he disappeared. I think he looked broken by the end, as did all the Argentina players and bench. You know, for me, Messi went everywhere to try and get the ball. He tried coming short, he tried staying high, he tried staying in the middle. He ended up wide. I mean, the guy's a broken man at the end of it. And quite frankly, it's all down to Sampaoli. I mean, this team in qualifying, somehow, only because of Messi, got into the World Cup. He changed nothing. He hasn't changed the style of play. He hasn't changed anybody in the squad. It's the same squad. It's the same group that struggled in the qualifying, somehow got in, and they're absolutely struggling now again.
Look, I have no problem with Lionel Messi going or looking broken at the end of the game at 3-0. I do have an issue with that at 1 and maybe even 2-0. I thought that was the time I expected Lionel Messi, given everything we know of him, and I've seen of him, especially in the qualifiers with Argentina, to grab that game by the scruff of the neck. But he didn't. And in fairness, they come up against a Croatia team who were far better organised and had players who were willing to step up and make the game their own. You just did not see that from Argentina. The goal goes in, you know you're weak at the back, you're strong at the front, or supposedly so, on paper at the very least, and there was absolutely no response. There's no response on the park. Sampaoli got more animated, but seemed to be remonstrating with the referee, and that's it. From an Argentina team, for me, that are stacked in terms of quality, I expected so much more.
Did Messi break sweat in the second half? Apart from the time he kicked out in a bit of a tantrum at somebody for a tackle. He had one shot in the game. No, I'm not blaming Messi's not why they lost the game. But I don't know what the stats would say. How many games where Messi has one half-hearted effort at target? I bet they're seldom. They're few and far between at international and club level. He just looked disinterested in the second half, and maybe it is because the players are substandard to what he's used to. But that's international football. You know, players are substandard for Ronaldo at Portugal. That happens. The players are substandard for Gareth Bale at Wales. That's international football. You can't pick and choose your country. And he didn't do enough.
But then those teams that you're talking about with those players, the team is set up to get Gareth Bale the ball. The team is set up to get Ronaldo the ball. This team looks set up just to just stand and watch, and hopefully Messi gets it on his own and wins the game for them. This team did absolutely nothing to help Messi. Absolutely zero.
Rakitic scores the third goal from the edge of the box where he comes in, 4 players, side foot shot, keeper makes the save, player passes it to him and he taps it in because 4 Argentinian players are stood watching. The 2 best players in the Croatian team, and he made the change, the coach. He brought Brozovic back in from Inter Milan, who's a defensive midfielder. He sat Rakitic a little bit deeper and gave Modric freedom. Is the coach that stupid? When he saw the team sheet, he didn't realise that's what was happening. The 2 best players on the pitch were the 2 guys that I mentioned there. They had no plan for them. And then you've got hard-working Rebic and the excellent Perisic on the other side who will graft. Argentina had absolutely none of that.
I tell you what Argentina had. Mascherano running around like crazy, all by himself in the middle of midfield, trying to chase Modric, trying to chase Rakitic. We talked about this previewing this match yesterday. If Modric and Rakitic control the game, Argentina were going to have all sorts of difficulties being able to get into this game. And boy, did Rakitic and Modric give a clinic. And in doing so, then you start exposing the lack of balance that Argentina has. And so you can depend on Messi and you can depend on the attacking players if you so desire. But if you don't have organization and you don't have balance, you're going to get exposed. On top of all of that, it is impossible for me to think of a team that has been more disorganized in terms of Argentina history. We go back to 2010. This team made that team from Maradona look organized, and that's a lot to say. So for the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, however long it has been, that Sampaoli has been with this team preparing for this tournament, where is the work? Where do you see, okay, this is what your job is, this is what your role is, this is what you're supposed to do, this is how we're going to create opportunity, this is how we're going to get the ball to Messi, and oh, by the way, Messi, we need you to show up as well, because without you, we're not good enough.
I want to bring Frank into the conversation because, Frank, it's interesting. There were 11 players out there, but there's one player, obviously, everyone will be talking about, and that is Lionel Messi. Ali and Craig suggesting that he looked disinterested in that second half. Do you agree with them?
Well, yes, I do. I felt really appalled, you know, in that situation where I saw Messi with the ball and not having the possibility to play like he does with Barcelona, where, you know, you have Dybala alongside him, Higuain or Aguero, and he doesn't find easily, like he does with Barcelona, his teammates. So that for me showed me the differences between a real squad, which was Croatia, and individuals, maybe stars, they were Argentina. But in order to win something when you play a World Cup, you have to play together. Football is a collective game, soccer, sorry, is a collective game, and Argentina forgot about that. So it's like a show. It's an individual show where I try to do stuff, I try to take on my opponent, but I don't try to play. And it must be really a revolution for Messi, because Messi knows how to play with the others when he plays for Barcelona, and he knows how to make passes to the others, and it doesn't exist. As Guy says in the studio, you have no organization whatsoever in that squad, and it's really appalling. We saw tonight maybe the best or the most organized team, Croatia, against the worst organization that we saw so far. And that's can't be like that. Don't forget, Argentina is the runner-up of the last World Cup, and they might go away, you know, after the group stage because they deserve to go away. We have nothing. We have maybe the best player with Ronaldo on earth, but it shows that you need first a squad. They may be the best player can give you the plus, but it's impossible if you don't have at least the basics. And Sampaoli didn't bring anything.
Sampaoli has made 3 players who looked absolutely great last season, look awful. Whether you like him or not, Otamendi was fabulous at Man City. Sergio Aguero was fabulous at Man City. As usual, Lionel Messi was fabulous in Spain. And he's managed magnificently to form a system that makes these 3 players in particular, and I would say they're 3 of the most experienced and talented players in their positions, he's made them look pretty average. I mean, that takes some doing from a coach.
We haven't really seen too many standout performances when it comes from teams in this tournament, maybe than we'd expect from the group stages. There's a big argument to say that Croatia have been the best team we've seen, haven't they?
Yeah.
Come to win over Nigeria and just completely swept Argentina aside.
I said before the tournament started that I didn't trust Croatia. I said that they always let you down. I said, well, I couldn't have been further from the truth, because this absolutely is a unit, but they also have stars involved in it as well. I mean, Modric was fantastic for Real Madrid, and he was absolutely fantastic in this game. Rakitic, the same. Prezovic, the guy they brought on. You got Mandzukic, who should have scored. You know he's got quality, but works his socks off. Everywhere you look in this Croatia team, quality and teamwork. So I was 100% wrong.
The biggest takeaway for me from Croatia is, with those stars, the Modric's, the Rakitic, how willing they are to put in the work either side of the ball and not just trot around with the kind of pomp that they've earned. Now, when you see, you almost expect Modric to be scoring those kinds of goals, as fascinating as it was. What you don't normally expect is to see Rakitic back in front of Subasic, clearing the ball from right under his nose, making last-ditch tackles inside the box, and carrying a weight of responsibility that says he's part of this team, which you don't see enough from some of the bigger names.
He made that tackle on Messi, didn't he?
Yeah.
From what, 2 yards out? Yeah. It was a goal-saving challenge. Yeah. And then he's up the other end, putting it in the net. I mean, that's the guy plays for Barcelona, right? He's supposed to have a big ego. Desire for his country.
So Croatia are good, done and dusted, through to the next round. The big question now, obviously, is who will be joining them. As it stands, it could be the 3 remaining teams. Tomorrow sees Iceland take on Nigeria. Basically, if you're an Argentina supporter, you want Nigeria to get the win, because if Iceland get the victory, then basically Argentina are all but done and dusted. Iceland, of course, taking on Croatia. Croatia will make changes, knowing that they are already through. Argentina in serious trouble now, Alan. Can they regroup? Can they get anything going?
Well, now it's to the point that it doesn't depend on them.
Yeah, it's out of their hands.
It's out of their control. And so, I mean, I sat here and I thought that there would be a reaction from Argentina. I thought that they would come out and play really well against Croatia. And there is no evidence on what we have seen that this team has a reaction in them. In fact, more to the opposite. I think from here up until that game against Nigeria, it's going to be a nightmare in that camp. It's going to be all sorts of pressure coming from everywhere. And this team may just collapse. It may just pull in all sorts of different directions. They've been showing this since qualifiers and barely made it into the tournament. You thought that there would be some sort of, not only a reaction, but a coming together and say, look, we just have to get it right for 7 games. They haven't even gotten it right for 1 game. I don't trust Argentina.
If you're Iceland or Nigeria, you're obviously loving what happened, and now you're in a situation where, right then, boys, we get a win.
Well, exactly. I think Iceland in particular licking their lips, because this was a tough group for them. I think they can beat Nigeria. They're very well organised. They've had some great results. Quarter-finalists at the Euros. Topped their group in qualifying. And by the way, in the final game of Croatia do make changes. Iceland beat them in the qualifying campaign. Not only topped them, but beat them in Iceland by a 1-0. So it's looking good for them to go a fair distance in this tournament.
Just a reminder, if you ever miss a show, you can download our daily podcast over on the website. After the break, we'll be discussing the other games today, in particular, France's victory against Peru. Welcome back. There were some other games today away from Argentina's defeat against Croatia. Frank Leboeuf with us to talk about France's 1-0 victory over Peru. How's it gone down in Paris, Frank?
Well, really like after the first game, the expectations were huge. We thought, after the first game, the stress will go out and they will really go into the World Cup and work their socks off. It started pretty well. The first half was pretty good, with a very good Paul Pogba and an excellent N'Golo Kante in the midfield zone. We scored a nice goal. I think Olivier Giroud did exactly what we were expecting from him, being a very good target for everybody to turn around him. So it was great, and we scored a goal. Mbappe scored the goal. So we thought we were going into a great success, and second half, nothing, and in a way that suddenly I was so disappointed of seeing my national team being in its last, all the players being in the last 20 yards, trying to save the result, like, I don't know, Panama, or I don't know, another small team. And that's a team who think they can win the World Cup, maybe. We are so far away from there. We've been smashed by Peru in the second half, like they were the big team with all the history of football, and we were a very small team. So we have to react if we want to be better. We have to win against Denmark. We can't even think of just drawing or maybe putting the substitute or whatever. We have to win, because imagine we lose against Denmark, if we go through, but with 2 bad games, the 2 first games, and a loss. It's impossible to carry on like that. We have to do better, really have to do better.
So France are fine, obviously, top of the group, 2 wins. But this is a big deal, isn't it? You can't just shake your head and shrug your shoulders.
You know, I sympathise with France and or with Frank and how poor France have been. You expect more, especially after the disappointments of 2 years ago. Yes, given the talent that they have at their disposal, you expect a better performance. But all that being said, we've seen some very big names in this tournament put in some decidedly average performances. You take the 2 wins, you hope you learn from it, and you hope for better performance.
That's certainly the glass is half full, isn't it? Because you take a look at it, you look at all that talent that is there. And okay, first game you maybe give them a pass, but the second half, as Frank said, you've got all of these multi-million-dollar footballers hanging on against Peru.
Well, Peru are decent, and strong, and quick, and powerful, and come out and calm the ball. But I hear you. The French, and rightly so, hold themselves to higher standards than the first 2 games. There's not a doubt about it. But from 60 minutes on, Peru just took the bull by the horns, and they pushed and they pushed, and they had a great strike against the woodwork. They had some chances, Larissa to make some saves. The disappointing thing, if France want to do that, and they should be good enough to suck Peru in with the pace that French team have got, and just hit them on the counter-attack and kill the game off. But they didn't even look as if they were bothered to do that. So 6 points, but pretty disappointing with the talent they've got at their disposal.
It just seems, once again, and this keeps coming up with France, 11 individuals.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you compare it and contrast it with the situation in Argentina, well, you'll take it. You'll take the 6 points, not playing well, and you'll take that. But if you really evaluate France and you start looking at team performance and individual performances, you have to ask questions. When N'Golo Kante is your best player over your first 2 games, right? As good a player as he is, it can't be that your defensive midfielder is the guy that really has taken the leadership role and be the guy for your team. That also tells you that in the attacking half, not much. Not much at all. Antoine Griezmann, another game, and another one of those games that you just say, where were you?
Yeah.
Mbappe was better today than he was in the first game, and yet he wasn't able to take advantage of his athleticism and the speed that Craig is talking about on the counter. You're expecting more, but based upon what you're seeing from some of the other big teams, you're sitting there, your friends, you're like, you know what? We'll take our position.
We're waiting longer for Antoine Griezmann to get going than we were for him to make a statement about staying at Atletico Madrid pre this World Cup starting.
Will they get going? Will they gel?
I haven't seen anything in either of the friendlies leading up to the World Cup, or these 2 games, to suggest yes. Yes, Griezmann's disappeared, but for me, their biggest problem's in the middle of the park. They don't have the balance between stopping teams getting at the back 4. If there's a positive, then they've defended well pretty much. They haven't let much go. But apart from not defending well in the middle of the park, they're not giving the front 3 anything from the middle of the park either. They're not giving them any service. You take Mbappe out of this team right now, you've got nothing going forward.
Frank, how do you fix this? How do you make your boys better?
Well, there is one thing that I think about, for the past 2 days, where, Didier Deschamps decided that he will give the leadership in that team to Paul Pogba and Antoine Griezmann. He will fix all the players around them. But if those 2 don't give what they have to give as talented as they are, but give you an average performance, the whole squad has to be changed because it doesn't work with them. So it's complicated in a way that as long as Didier will decide to keep those players, and those players are average, you will have a problem with other players. So maybe because you put Lemar out, you didn't give him a chance, or because you put Tolisso after the first game out, and you still try for like the past 3 or 4 years, you try to give Pogba the leadership, you have a problem in the midfield. Paul Pogba was excellent for like 35 minutes, but it's not enough. I follow the Premier League with Manchester United, where Paul Pogba can be the best player on earth, and Manchester will win. But can be the worst player and Manchester will lose. So that's the problem with Paul Pogba when he talks and says he wants to be the Ballon d'Or, that he wants to have the key of the national team. Okay, but show us to me that you can do that. But so far, it doesn't work. And when you have the wrong leader, I would say, it's complicated to be performant. But that's what it is.
Let's just remind you how things stand in Group C. As we mentioned, despite all the criticism we're giving them, France are fine. They are through. Denmark, big favourites to join them. They could only manage a 1-1 draw, though, against Australia. Is France-Denmark in that final game? And as Frank alluded to, France maybe will stick with a strong side to try and get something going. Meanwhile, Peru are out. They take on Australia, who still have a chance if they beat Peru.
I feel like Robbo here. I want to talk about...
You can talk about wing-backs.
Throwing about full-backs a minute. I think France can get more from the full-backs. I'm surprised, and it's the decision Deschamps has made so far, that it's not Sidibe and it's not Mendy. Mendy's fitness, he's had a horrible injury, he's back from that. I don't know how fit he is. But I do think when Mbappe and Matuidi it was this today start coming narrow, Sidibe and Mendy are much better getting forward. And I just think that's an area that Didier Deschamps may look at.
I think the big challenge for me is Deschamps doesn't quite know what his best 11 is or who he wants to go with. A total change, well, not total change, but a change of personnel, throw in Giroud up front. I thought the best we've seen from Mbappe so far this tournament is when Giroud came on in that first game against Australia, sitting in the hole. Griezmann has been a disappointment, and you talk about lack of leadership on the field. I think equally a lack of leadership off it.
Right, stop bashing France. I'm trying to move on and talk about what...
But say that.
I'm trying to do that when I showed the group. That was supposed to be the subtle hint.
Oh.
Who is going to be joining France? Because obviously Peru are out. We saw them in tears afterwards. Can they regroup, or are they broken now for that final game against Australia?
Even if they regroup, and they may just get a win out of that game, and that keeps Australia from advancing. I think Denmark will be the one. I think that first result from Denmark beating Peru it's 3 points that are going to be key for them in order to advance. France and Denmark will come out of this group.
Do you agree, Stevie?
Yes. As poor as Denmark have been, they've got it done. We don't expect them to play silky football. We expect them to get it done, and that's what they've done.
Can we talk about France again?
Please don't.
Denmark. Denmark come out of the group.
Denmark?
Yes, Denmark.
Yeah, everyone going for Denmark. No love for Australia. Right, thank